given to the Elgin Women's Club is not to the Elgin Women's Club. It's to all those hundreds of women who lived in Elgin over the last 135 years who made things happen. And we really appreciate you honoring them along with us. I also need to say thank you to a committee of women who are absolutely amazing. Joy Jensen. Oh, first of all, I'm Rita Corbett. I'm sorry, I'm the president of the Elgin Women's Club. Current president. Joy, want to stand up? She's our vice president. Audrey is back there. She's our secretary. Linda Fagan. Oh, where's Linda? She's probably working on something. Anyway, you'll hear from her in a minute. She's our treasurer. Betty Brown, past president. Jan Kane. Now, I have to explain the reason I need to say thank you to this group is because we had an event here in March 27th. 2 days later, I ended up in the hospital and have been in and out ever since. I left a message on Joy's machine saying, Joy, I won't be there. I don't know when I'll be there. So all of the scholarships have to be decided. All of the scholarships have to be awarded. All of the planning for the spring luncheon has to be made. And I went on through this list of all of these things that had to be done. Probably a week, maybe 10 days later, I heard from them. They said, we're done. I said, you what? Yeah, we all got together. We took care of all the scholarships. We took care of all the plannings. What a fabulous group of women. And I'd like you to join me in thanking them. I also would like to thank Lois. Is Lois? Lois is Lois helped with today's event in all sorts of many ways. Thank you for your help. Also, a little later, we are going to have wonderful desserts created by Linda Fagan and a dear friend of hers, Terry Morris. Now, all of us have put in some time, but I called Linda a few days ago and I said, what's that noise? And she said, I'm stirring. The desserts are not made. So she was getting desserts made in the middle of everything. And I really thank them for their time and effort and expertise. The last thing we need to do is to thank the Elgin History Museum. This is such a fabulous gem of a place. They are amazing to work with. It's a beautiful venue. And we really could not have afforded to do the kind of events that we did this year if it hadn't been for them. So I think everyone in Elgin needs to take a tremendous pride in this great place. Now, we'll give them we are honoring the women from 135 years ago. But our newest member a few weeks ago called me and said, I saw one of your cards laying around town. And for a long time, I've just wanted to be part of my community. I wanted to be involved in my community, and I didn't know how. When I saw your card, I thought, well, maybe this is something that could get me started. Women are women. And whether you were born 135 years ago, or whether you were born yesterday, well, not yesterday. We all have this fabulous urge to give back to the community that we live in and to make things better than the way we found them. So we still want to honor those women from 135 years ago, but we want to honor each one of you as well, and all those who continue to carry on the work of a women's club. Joy, would you like to come tell us about one of our new finds in the 135 years. Thanks, Rita. Good afternoon and welcome to our Elgin Women's Club 135th anniversary celebration. We're really excited and thank all of you for coming from me as well. I'd like to tell you a brief story about another Elgin Women's Club anniversary, this time the 70th anniversary in 1957. The president at the club at that time was Marjorie Leonard, and the Ways and Means chair was Mrs. Royal People, who was to raise funds for their major philanthropy project. In addition to Sherman Hospital. It was decided that the members could have their name added to a lovely tea cloth at that time for a donation of $1 each. The tea cloth was made of oyster white Irish linen with ecru embroidery floss. Special thread for hemming came from Paris. Lace edging was made by Mrs. Leonard Oler and was made in Sweden. 456 initial members of the club would come forward and do autographs on the cloth. Afterwards, the tea cloth was on display at the Joseph Spies department store for a whole week. It was very exciting for them. Net profit from almost $400 was made after the room at the hospital was paid for. That tea cloth is here today to help us celebrate our 135th anniversary. And to honor it, we are gifting the Elgin History Museum of that cloth so that it may have safekeeping for the rest of its life. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Betty Brown. Everybody knows her as Mrs. Betty Brown or Mrs. Floyd Brown. And Betty is an original signer of the tea cloth.
Well, thank you, Joy. It is an honor. And you can look over here. Pat Spakowski was here and she found my name and we had to pay $1 and then it was embroidered on. And can you imagine that all these years that's been there and I'm the only living person yet? Still on. And so I am thrilled. Thank you. And thank you for coming today. Because back in those days, we had to sign our husband's name. So I'm Mrs. Floyd A. Brown. I'm not Betty Brown or Mary Brown, and no one on there. So sometimes you don't recognize people because the women didn't have a name. And so now we can find a name, but I'm still living. And I thank you for coming. 90 years old.
Thanks. That was wonderful, Betty. Thank you so much. I'd like to also now introduce it, and it's my pleasure to do this, Linda Fagan, who's our treasurer, for some more information and to introduce the VIPs as well. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming. We have a state representative who is not in our presence today, but he did send a letter, and so I am going to be honored to read that. Dear Elgin Women's Club, congratulations to your organization on a milestone of 135 years of changing lives. I hope your recent community outreach activities went well. All of our actions set examples for future generations and prove as inspiration for younger leaders across the community. It's impressive that your organization takes initiative to combat issues that many citizens across the world experience today, and I am confident that this experience will inspire others to continue making positive change. Projects like these develop empathy and knowledge, which can serve as a positive force in helping to transform the world. Have fun at your reception on Saturday, July 23rd. Thank you again for setting such a positive example and for your continued dedication to the community. I wish you only continued success in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Donald P. DeWitt, Illinois State Senator, 33rd District. The other individual who I'd like to recognize, and she is here, her name is Hannah Cook. She is, and you want to stand up, Hannah? There she is. She is the District Director for State Representative Suzanne Ness. Thank you for coming and representing her. We appreciate it.
For her, but thank you for having us. Really excited to learn more about what you've been doing for 35 years. It's a huge milestone, so thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and representing her. We appreciate it. And then our next is, I'm honored to have the mayor of our city here, Mayor Captain. Would you like to come up and say a few words, please?
Thank you, Linda. Well, this is quite an honor, and it's humbling just to look at the T cover, and the 135 years is inspiring to everybody. And you know, one of the things that I've started to do as I've been mayor is I do events like this a lot. And one of the things that we all need to do, including the men that are sitting in this room and the women that are in this room, is remember back to the people that brought you here and the shoulders that you stood on. Your parents, your mother and your father, your friends, your relatives, and the people that represent the Women's Club for 135 years. We all have an obligation. We have an obligation to carry on with dignity the things that they brought to this city, to make the city of Elgin great. And if the city of Elgin grew from 400 and some ladies back 135 years ago to this community that it is today, and they all gave something, we all give something back, and we should all be proud. I'm sorry I can't, Chief Lally, and I can't spend more time with you today, but what a great honor for me to be here. Congratulations on your 135th birthday.
Thank you, Mayor Captain, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. We truly appreciate it. And then our next one is going to be, it's my pleasure to introduce Elgin Police Chief Anna Lally. Chief Lally is a 26-year-old veteran of the Elgin Police Department. Prior to her being appointed to the rank of chief, she served in various capacities at the command staff level, the Strategic Initiatives Commander, Operations Commander, Administrative Commander, and Investigations Commander. Since 2008, Chief Lally has served as an adjunct faculty member at ECC for the Criminal Justice Program. In 2001, she was a recipient of the Service to Students Award. Please welcome Chief Anna Lally to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. So first, let me just thank you for the Elgin Women's Club for having me here today. It's been an honor. It's an honor to be able to even say a few words. So when I was asked to come and say a few words, and I said to support women and show how awesome they are, I'm there. That's a piece of cake. That's an awesome day for me. So I just want to say first, congratulations. That's a huge milestone. And you know, I've been in the police department. I'm in my 27th year. And when I got hired, there were very few women. There were probably about 4 of us who were actual police officers. And you know, over the past few years, we want the right people, good heads, good hearts. But I will tell you, today we have 35 women in the Elgin Police Department, which is unheard of. So, you know, and I'd say that just to echo the mayor's comments, you know, it's always important to remember history, to remember the things that people did before us, to honor, to pay respect, and take care of that. And then as we move forward in the future to make a better future, provide hope, guidance, mentorship, leadership. Sometimes it's not easy as women. There are certain struggles that we do face, but stay persistent and continue that momentum of supporting people, both men and women, but especially when it comes to women. The barriers that we break, whether it's in our profession or personal life, we should thank the women that came before us. So thank you to the Elgin Women's Club. You guys are amazing women. Betty, oh my God, like that's just awesome. So you're amazing. So, but thank you, congratulations. And I hope you guys have a great, enjoyable afternoon. And thank you for allowing me to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Lally. We appreciate it. I know you both have to leave, but I'm sure my friend back there could set you up with some dessert. So if you wanted to get some dessert before you leave, feel free.
Everybody go to.
Oh, Mayor Captain and Chief Lally, did you guys get a raffle ticket?
We did.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. You can give yours to Rita and put one in the basket and mark it for Captain,
Oh,
for Mayor Captain, okay?
okay.
All right. Okay, we'll make sure before you do the announcement, I'll make sure that everyone has it. The next person that I'd like to introduce to you is somebody from Sherman Hospital. And I had the pleasure of working with her many years ago. We were both critical care nurses in the ICU at Sherman Hospital. Donna Cruz is going to come up and give a few words, say a few words for us. She is the Sherman Hospital representative today. The president, Ms. DeShazo, was unable to be here, so Donna is speaking in her behalf. Donna is the director of inpatient services and magnet accreditation. And if you don't know what magnet accreditation is, Donna will explain that to you because it's an honor for Sherman Hospital to have that.
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, everyone. And it is a pleasure to be here today to represent Sherman Hospital. And I really appreciate this time to have a few moments with you to really look back at our history. I'm so looking forward to the presentation this afternoon to learn more about our history. But just to imagine this group of women that came together to form this hospital that now has flourished into something that I think you probably couldn't even have imagined back then. Twyla has some information about Sherman if you're unfamiliar with it. We are a 255 bed hospital located over on Randall Road on a beautiful piece of land. It's a prairie themed and very holistic healing environment, but we could not have been there if it wasn't for these women who started the organization over 130 years ago. So as Linda mentioned, I am over our magnet program, and what that means to the organization, to the community is the highest standard of nursing that you could have designated by the American Nursing Credentialing Certification Company, which is like an offshoot of our American Nurses Association. And what it was formed from is that we noticed that there were certain hospitals where people were attracted to, nurses wanted to work at, they didn't want to leave. And they found that there was certain elements in those hospitals that kept those nurses there. And so that became the magnet designation. And now only about 8% of all hospitals in the country are magnet facilities, and Sherman has been magnet designated since 2012. We are actually looking forward to our site visit for our second redesignation this coming September. So it shows that we have science in place to do nursing research. We do evidence-based practice at the bedside, innovations, highest quality for our patients. And so it's just an honor to be part of the history and the legacy of Sherman. I have been there for over 30 years. As Linda said, we work together in the trenches. And it's just a pleasure to be here and to continue to serve our community and to partner in ways that we can to make sure that if state-of-the-art healthcare is right here in our own backyard. You don't have to go to the city to get some of these surgeries and interventions that in the past you might have had to go to. So thank you to those women and their forward-thinking to put together this organization for us to be able to serve you still today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Donna. We appreciate you being here. My next introduction is going to be the person who's going to be doing our program today, and that is Mr. Jerry Turnquist. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with who he is. Mr. Turnquist was a District U46 teacher for 41.5 years, a local historian, and has had a long time involvement with the Elgin History Museum. Mr. Turnquist founded the Elgin Area Historical Society Cemetery Walk and the Elgin New Citizen Recognition Committee. He has served on both the Elgin Heritage Commission as a trustee of the Gale Borden Public Library and still serves on the Library Foundation. He received the first Elgin Image Award in 1992, and in 1995 was the first recipient of the George Vandervoort Distinguished Service Award. Mr. Turnquist has served as the president of the Elgin Patriotic Memorial Association, and I worked with him. I've been happy to work with him on that organization, and he continues to be a featured writer for the Daily Herald. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Jerry Turnquist as he presents Elgin Women's Club, Touching Lives Everywhere.
Well, Linda, thank you for the introduction. I was asked for this introduction. I gave her 3 bullets, basically. Thanking my teacher and Bob with his name and one other things. I was all that out, but I've been proud to volunteer and be part of all do the things I do to make the community better. Just as the women's club that I've been doing for 35 years. So 135 years, that's a long time. And we've heard that mentioned a couple of times this morning. What was going on in the United States at that time? What was going on in our city? And what have these women done for 135 years? And then they're still here doing all the great stuff. I'm glad I was proud to be asked to do this program for you and pull these things together. And I can tell you now, when I get done, people will come up to me and say, well, you left this out, you left that out. You might have left it. Yeah, I sure could. How do you grasp 135 years of history? And, and I'm going to kind of move through that kind of quickly. But I did some high points, but there's other things, they were involved with the hospital and they want to get done. You should have said one about the hospital. We're going to be here a long time. They did it in the other one. So, and this is not moving it now. So,
I know. Try now?
Okay. Like one more.
Oops.
Okay, so I'm good here.
Yeah, let me move this out of the way.
Okay. So anyway, let's go back to 1887. Who's president then? What was Cleveland? No whole lot. I can talk about him. And American Cleveland was in the White House. His wife was 20 years old at the time. He was 48, so it's a different guy. 12 states weren't even in the United States yet. That's what it was like in 1887. They were generally in the western part of the United States. So our country still wasn't built out the way it is today. And of course, at that time, immigrants were pouring in the United States largely throughout the time. A number of them would come down. So in the Elgin area, our population in 1887 was about 14,000. Today, we have 100,000 more people in that. So we've grown greatly beyond what we were. But even at that point, Elgin had grown quite a bit from a little industrial and agricultural town. It was even at the time of the Civil War. So this is what the city looked like at the time. If you were in 1887, looking at the east side, and some buildings, the Turners is there. This building. Some of our schools, public schools that are still around are just being built out. But a lot of the things that are familiar to us in Elgin today, they weren't there. The configuration of streets for where it was a very, very different town. And as you can see there, we really did respect the river. We come to learn how important that is to us. And we can find other pictures of houses right along the river and things like that. So, and here's a look on the east side of Elgin. This is Griffith Street. Just across the river on the west side, we're working on a historical society and the Palestine project just down the street there to build some of the other older buildings that we have. That's how different it was. And people that went anywhere in that town went in there in muddy streets. There were no paved streets at that time. So what was Elgin like? There are 3 things that were really changing Elgin at the time this club was getting started. We had a watch factory, and it was growing rapidly, bringing a lot of people to Elgin. I get fancy here. I think. What we know is the Elgin Mental Health Center. Let's just get going. And I'm sorry, I'm standing in front of people that moved here, but the Elgin Mental Health Center, the Illinois, for the same, it's growing and becoming great, a big thing. We have a book here written by one of the historians, Bill Bristol. We'd like to learn a lot more about that. And then lastly, Elgin was growing to become a dairy capital. All these are other talks, projects, and things you can learn a whole lot more about in Elgin. This museum, what didn't we have at the time? We didn't have any city water. We didn't have any streetcars. We didn't have any cops. We had no paved streets, and there was no hospital. But that was about to change. With the Women's Club getting going. So the Elgin Women's Club, one of the various groups that were around at the time, was starting to become hero joiners. Become parts of clubs, and those of you that are familiar with the stories, some of this, they ran an ad in the paper, and the ad ran, "Women of Elgin, young and old, rich and poor, married or single, come let us reason together and lend a hand in the world's work." They met at what was known as the Cook Building, and that's building the area of the Young Men's Christian Association, where the DC Cook Publishing Company would be from. That was a Cook Building. That's where they met. And they came, they walked, they came in carriages, they came on horses. That's the only way to come at the time. There were no streetcars, definitely. And certainly no cars. And that group, in a very short period of time, showed the name Elgin Women's Club for their name. And they agreed to meet again a week later. And the Upstart Club elected, made some different decisions. I had a club and I don't make decisions too fast. I don't know how they do it. They picked the club motto as progress, through the Constitution and bylaws, combination and flower, and they appointed some different committees that they needed to move forward with their work. And the first president was Lois Wilcox. When I did this program, I was here earlier in the year just to talk about it, a little tease for what I was doing today and some other things. And as I said at that time, I started putting this program together, and I recognized many of the women who they were married to, and some were married to some influential men. And I thought, I started telling them, no, this is not about the men who they were married to. This is their story. So that's the way I've kept it. And there are names and that the very first people were on the first board that would become very significant in Elgin's history over time, and very much affect the community on their own, because they were very dues were down for a year, and by the end of the first year they had 96 members. So they were allowed to meet in what was known as the Century Club, which is a prestigious businessmen's club. You were standing kind of like in the Tower Building today, where it is, looking out on South Grove Avenue on the upper right there. The Century Club would meet, so they had nice quarters to get going on. They also listed some of the objectives of the club at that time: mutual sympathy and counsel, and united effort in all benevolent and educational movements in the community to which the club belongs. Then some things would happen that would bring the club together, and their mission would be very much tied in with Sherman Hospital, because as you know, and those of you that are in the club, they helped found this hospital. And they got going in February 1888. Henry Sherman was a very wealthy person, deeded a club at the north, their lot at the north, a lot at the corner north and Channing, just several blocks away, for use as a hospital. And those were not popular at the time. They were called pest houses by some people. And a lot of people didn't want it. There was a lot of back and forth to the city council. Do we even want a hospital? Because people went to their doctor's offices to be treated. They didn't go to hospitals yet, which changed remarkably over time. But the women persevered. They knew this was an idea that they wanted to pursue with. That's the building. I shouldn't dive out a better picture of it, but you're going to see a better picture because the building still exists, but not at that point. So that's Sherman Hospital was a house, and you can't see it in this picture. And does National Hospital over the door. So, what do? They thoroughly clean the house. They put in a new well and cistern. There was no city water, remember, painted floors, added carpets, and they got a lot of donations. They knew who, many of them knew who to go find and to ask for money to make this project happen. And Sherman Hospital opened on June 19th, 1888. And again, it's the same picture, and it gives you an idea. It was a house. So what did the house have in it? Well, there were 6 rooms, 8 beds, 2 were free. That's the words they would use. There was no charge to various people that would be there. The front room was the operating room. There was an operating table donated by George Lord, one of our philanthropists of Elgin, who would, him and his wife would donate to Burns Park and a whole lot more to Elgin. And during the first year, there were 35 patients admitted. And in case you wondered what that building looks like, it is still up on Hickory Place. Hickory, yes, just half a block off of Liberty Street. When I was a student, one of my students a few years ago, when I was a teacher, one of my students lived in that house because they hear history from me all the time when they have me as a teacher. And he says there's never phone numbers over some of the doors. So they knew, that was the hospital. So anyway, community, that hospital did not serve for a long time because we're outgrowing that. The city's rapidly growing and the hospital idea itself has become more popular. In 1891, George Lord gave a woman at Women's Club $5,000 to build a new hospital. And the Women's Club went ahead with those plans. The estimated cost for the new hospital was $27,000. They went out and ran campaigns and did different projects. They got donations to them anywhere from 30 cents up to $5,000. And this hospital that they would later build on Center Street, just north of Slade, we were familiar with it, is the later version of that's where I was born, and a whole lot of other people in Milton. That's what it looked like at the time. It was designed by the Apostle, who was a noted architect in the Elgin area. And it was the first building built in Elgin as a hospital. So I said it was on the northeast side. So what was it? It was 3 floors, had an attic, had an operating room, the first floor. And then on the second floor, there were 17 rooms there in all. There were beds in wards, were $1 a day to be there. Private rooms were $10 a week, and an elevator, which is a real plus. They moved the patients up and down in the operating room. Gardens were waived for various Elgin residents. Rooms had bathtubs in the center, food, laundry, nursing provided involved for very nominal costs. Above the door was a sign which read Sherman Hospital, erected in 1895 by the Elgin Women's Club. I don't have a picture of that. There might be one somewhere out there, but our newspapers at the time when the hospital was dedicated recorded that was there, and maybe it was there for years and some other pictures, but I haven't seen it. So, and some of the people from the Women's Club told me recently, this was the largest hospital in the United States operated by a Women's Club. So how did they raise money for this and other projects at the time? There's a lot of things they did, but one of the things recorded in their history themselves in the Sherman Hospital book, they ran a trolley there. They got, by the way, remember when the Sherman Hospital or the Women's Club began, there were no streetcars yet. We got them in 1890 in Elgin, 3 years before Chicago even got. But when they came, and this is the building right at the center there in front of the streetcars is where the Tower Building stands today. So this is a very busy place. This is the picture of some of our trolleys there. They made arrangements on the trolley system per day, like fairs and stage events that go help raise money for the club. And some of the different things they did at Lord's Park, they run in boats. They had a wand drill or a baton drill, the Turners. Trout Park, they had trap shooting. And King Park, which is an area on Slade and Liberty Street, they had a baseball game between Fatman and Elgin. And when I showed this to the person who told me to do, she said, "Who won?" I said, "I don't know." Anyway, that's it. So you can go back and it's $600. But please remember that at that time, like $2 a day might be on the upper end of your wages for people. So to bring in $600 by doing this type of thing is all worth it. Took over the newspaper today. And on Thanksgiving edition, 1903, they ran a whole, and much of this, the newspaper was taken over by stories authored by the women's club, including their front page and story about what their club was, and how they got going. Various other things in Elgin, and here's that as a fundraiser. But as the years would go on, the club would be involved with many different projects and things. In 1905, they led the effort for free garbage collection in Elgin. Aurora had it. You know, times are changing. We can't. There's a lot of places in Elgin that various places that empty lots, and people would call it a dump. What wasn't a dump? People would just dump their garbage in various places in neighborhoods. The garbage needed to be picked up, and you can't just live the way we were. So, thanks to the women's club, garbage collection got going in Elgin. 1910, during the city unit meeting, beautiful movement. They helped advocate a lot for cleaner Elgin, picking up things, trees, planting alleys, river funds cleared. A big project to help make Elgin a better place. They, in 1916, ran the very first Hiawatha Pageant in Elgin around the lagoon in Lord's Park. And that would later become an annual event in Elgin, headed up by Carl Pralaska, that people would participate in for years. And there's things that you can look at downstairs related to our Hiawatha Pageant and what legacy that left for Elgin. So this is one of the programs that the Historical Society has in the collection that we have from that. They raised funds for a doughboy statue at the end of World War I, which is then known as the Great War. Over 50 Elgin people, including one woman who lost their lives in World War I. And honor those. Do you need to adjust anything here? Are we okay? Oh, okay. Down, maybe. I probably can't hear me now. Okay. They led the effort to put a statue up for those to remember those. Of course, this is right down there at Prairieville. You can pass by at different times, very majestically placed there. But on the base, behind the statue, it mentions that the Elgin Women's Club got this project going. It was so successful that they had enough money left over in Lord's Park, Gifford Park, Wing Park. There were signs put there by the Women's Club during the 1920s, identifying those parks, their history and things like that. So those are all monuments and plaques that are still in place because that project was a very successful one. So, and as I clicked through and looked through the different books that I was given and found and other things in newspapers, the list just goes on with what the club did. They helped the Geneva School for Girls, which ended in 1970s, Salvation Army, Prairie News Christmas Fund, Veterans at the Elgin State Hospital, now the Elgin Mental Health Center. That's a mission that's not continued anymore out there. But they also went to meetings, and one of the meetings I remember spotting, I know you're going to love this. Well, maybe not. And I thought, here's one of the things that they heard in the meeting. Tell me what you think. Housework in general and sweeping in particular is the most beautifying experience among women in the case. Women did their housekeeping, and especially the Friday work with the broom and dusting. Everything more beautiful complexions, graceful form, and bright eyes in every single or him. Well, I would sometimes leave with a classroom when I taught. We'll let you talk about that later. We'll process that. But I knew you'd enjoy that. So as time went on, they'd be involved in various efforts. They helped during the war. They helped in victory loans. And sometimes people forget how serious World War II was and how things could change. Everybody got involved in every way they could during the war. They sold war bonds. They packed canned food for victory drives. packed bed racks for veterans. They just, everybody, including certainly the Elgin Women's Club, wherever they could, they try to fit in and do what they could. Later years, they were involved in the Welch Conference, the Sacramento Health Center, and I well, maybe the Elgin Daycare Center. Shoot fun, you can read them up there, and I could just keep the list going and going and going of different things that they did. And there's a few more. Film series, entertainment, nursing home. The activities of the club, they pop up in every newspaper, and their records are just full of things. And I asked Linda Fagan, who I know besides the club, I said, just tell me, bring it up to date, would you be would too? Because I can sit there and find this, and this, and keep talking all day about what's in it, the club did. And so she sent me a list of some of the things that have been going on in not too distant past. Helping scholarships, Elgin Police Department, both for vets, nurses, training for Sherman Hospital. By the way, all the money they put out for additions and help in the current building, the money to get things seated over there. The list just goes on and on and on and on and on. And I can't but add with some of the comments I made earlier that this club has done so much. It's just woven all through Elgin history. Their legacy is left in so many ways, certainly with Sherman Hospital, which they ran, by the way, to 1945. It wasn't until then that they were separated in terms of their direct involvement with the hospital. So the Elgin Women's Club has been over the years and continues to make a tremendous difference in Elgin, and I'm glad to be able to share some things with you today. So let's go on, and happy birthday, Elgin Women's Club.
Thank you, Jerry, for a wonderful presentation. And we didn't notice one other person who was in our audience, and State Representative Anna Moeller is here. So if you please stand up and be recognized, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all of our speakers today. We truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to come and celebrate the 135th anniversary of the Elgin Women's Club with us today. We are going to have a drawing. We have some history books so if everyone has a raffle ticket, if you don't have a raffle ticket, raise your hand and Dan will be sure and give you one. The book that we have, the 5 books that we're going to raffle off are the history of Sherman Hospital. It's not the whole history of 135 years, but it's a portion of that history. And then we're going to also auction off an ornament of the first Sherman Hospital. And it's a numbered ornament. It was for people who live in Elgin. It's from Shocky's Jeweler. It's numbered, I think, 235 or something like that. Out of 200 or 2,500. So it's a very low number. So it's very pretty. Excuse me?
Do they still sell these?
Joy Jensen, do they still sell these?
Oh,
The
yes,
ornaments?
and Shockies, yeah.
They do, Betty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a series going on. Every fall. Every fall.
So I hope everybody learned something from Jerry today. I grew up in Elgin. I was born and raised in Elgin. So, and my great grandparents came here from Germany. So I have long ties to Elgin also. Yes.
While you're doing it, can I ask a question? Because you mentioned, Jerry, that they said Friday was sweeping day. I know, I believe Monday was washing day.
Oh,
and
right.
There. Those are rest days. Did everybody on this side get a ticket now? We need one more.
Yeah.
Oh, so both of yours are in here?
I
Oh,
didn't know it was, yeah. But I guess if nobody falls on.
then it.
It's not. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, he didn't want, one, and then one of you.
Okay. So for the first ticket, oh. We have one more ticket to go. And before you leave today, please help yourself to refreshments. We have beverages on my left, and then we have desserts on the right. And so we have carrot cake, and we have some tiramisu little desserts, and we have some chocolate mousse, and we have some raspberry cheesecake. And there are no calories, and they're bite sized. You can have as many as you want. You want to check the honors, Jerry? You didn't put a ticket in. Okay, so our first winner is 623383. The next winner is 623380. Are you done?
Oh, pardon me. That's my own bad.
We have 623622. Oh, that's me. Thank you.
I need this side of the room.
Yeah. 623398.
Mhm.
623396. All right. We have a name. Oh, and it's Chief Lally. She wrote her name on the back of it. So we'll hang it. We'll. And for the ornament, let's brush it. The ornament. 623623. Rita, do you have any final words that you'd like to say?
Just thank you.
Let me have a final word.
Okay.
My name is Al Walters. I'm the president of the museum. And we couldn't be happier to have all you folks here, especially you ladies. And the exhibit's been up for months, will be for some months more. I'm the only one currently with a glass of wine, but I've been put in charge of the wine. I can help you have wine shortly, a lot of coffee and water. But I propose, on behalf of his museum, a toast to the Elgin Women's Club. Good work you do.
Thank you again all for coming, and feel free to help yourself to refreshments.